Hello everybody, this is the UnapoloJews podcast by Rabbi Orel David, and we're going to talk today about Spain. As we see, Spain is reaching 10,000 people. Spain crossed 12,000 deaths in this coronavirus pandemic. And it's the anniversary of 528 years for the exile of the Jews of Spain, what's known by the Catholic Church as the Alhambra Decree. The Alhambra was the palace of the Spanish royalty, and there they wrote a decree in 1492 where they expelled all the Jews from Castile and Aragon who did not agree to convert to Christianity. So, specifically Catholicism, because that's the only kind of Christianity that was there. There wasn't, the Spanish decree to expel the Jews wasn't the first, but it was the most massive. And by I'm saying it wasn't the first, we know that there was decrees to expel the Jews before that. In other Christian Catholic places, like there was an expulsion from France, which we're going to talk about French and their future with this coronavirus pandemic in a future podcast. And there was an expulsion from Britain. For hundreds of years there was no Jews in Britain, there was no Jews in France, and the Spanish. So there's a little bit of background. Spain was a divided country. It was part Catholic, part Muslim. By the time the Catholics was able to quote unquote liberate Spain from the Muslims, then they turned themselves against the Jews. But during the time of Jews living in Spain, either under the Catholic regime or either under the Muslim regime, Jews actually prospered. There is rumors saying there was almost 1,500 towns of Jews in Spain before the expulsion. So what happened? What was the recoil on the Spaniards? And this is 528 years today, and we're gonna kind of look at some things and see what happened and why were the Jews was decreed to live, and what happened to Spain after they left, and what will happen to them today. And is this coronavirus a way to punish the Spaniards for the genocide that actually happened to the Jews when they left Spain? Because we know hundreds of thousands of Jews, maybe anything from tens of thousands of Jews to 100,000 Jews died. Other Jews had to convert to Christianity and were persecuted by the Inquisition and tortured, horrible tortures in the Inquisition. They didn't believe them as being true devout Catholics. And we will read some scriptures, and we will read some other rabbinical decrees about what happened after the Jews left Spain. So just to start, we have the prophet Obadiah, who's talk about the exile of Jerusalem, which is in Spain. Right? It's very interesting from the prophet Obadiah. So a lot of people don't know, but Obadiah, according to Jewish tradition, was an Edomite. He wasn't a born Jew. He was an Edomite convert who converted to Judaism, and because he was such a righteous man, as it says in the book, that he nourished 100 prophets in the cave. Ovadia then prophesies. It's, I believe, the smallest book in the whole Hebrew Bible. It's only one chapter and a few verses, and it says like this: and the exile of Jerusalem, which is in Spain, will inherit the cities of the Negev. The Negev is the southern part of Israel. And it's interesting that towards the end of the first temple, of the era of the first temple, there was Jews in Spain. So we have a Jewish folklore that is documented in Jewish books, and that says that King Solomon have sent emissaries into Spain, and that actually we had Jews towards the end of the first temple era, that they left and lived in Spain, which is extremely interesting, because when you think about it, Spain is in the other side of the Mediterranean. It's right on the other side of Israel. And what's very, very interesting is that the city of Toledo, right? The city of Toledo, Toledo is Hebrew for Tolitula. The legend says that it was built by exile of people from Judea after the destruction of the first temple by the Babylonians. And it says that there's a burial site of Adoniram. Adoniram was the tax collector of King Solomon, and he died, according to legend, in Spain in a city called Segont. And then towards the second destruction of the second temple, we see there is more archaeological documentation of Jews. There's actually evidence of synagogues and burial sites of Jews. There is also tombstones that contain Hebrew, Latin, and Greeks in Spain, and there is clear evidence that from the 3rd century on there was a giant Jewish life in Spain compared to other places. And then the Jews kind of lived there. I guess they were type of pagan culture similar to whoever was in France, those kind of cultures that they had there, those tribal cultures, and then they later on converted to Catholicism, Christianity, and we really see that during 1418 there was a riot against Jews in the Balearian Islands. And we see this is where the Jews start to get in trouble when they lived outside of Israel, and there is evidence to that towards the Middle East and in Persia, everywhere from Persia until to Spain and France and all these places where Jews used to live until those days. So we see 1,000 years before the expulsion of Spain, there was already rioting in that area against the Jews. Going forward a little bit, once the Muslim conquered Spain, this is where Jews became known as the golden era of Jews in Spain. And what a lot of people don't know today is that all Jewish culture, and I mean all Jewish culture, came from those rabbis, from those individuals that live in Spain from the 7th century, 8th century, until the 15th, 16th century, wherever the expulsion was. And just for you to understand, if you're Jewish or not Jewish and listening to this, any prayer that a Jew pray today from the Jewish prayer books that any Jews have in the world, any Orthodox Jew have in the world, those are all attributed to those rabbis in Spain. They compiled it. They had obviously earlier origins where they based their writings about, but they made those books, they compiled them together, more likely, and every Jew in the world today use the same words as those Spanish rabbis compiled when they lived in Spain up to the exile. And there was a few things that happened that led to the exile, and really it's like this. When you have an issue, any nation in the world has an issue, it will use some sort of an excuse. If it's money, they'll blame the Jews. If it's disease, they blame the Jews. If it's they lost a war, they blame the Jews for being spy to the other factions, and so forth and so forth. But the problem was that in Spain, the Jews were also part of the ruling class. So, for example, if you lived in let's say Egypt, if you're a Jew that's living in Egypt in the 10th century, okay, under Islam, you are most likely a nobody, okay? You just another culture among other cultures. The Muslim might have given you some kind of privileges to practice your religion because you were quote-unquote people of the book, but you were nothing. You didn't own land. You had no rights in the court of law. There was no, if a Muslim came to you and persecuted you, you had to give in. The same it was in France, in Germany, Italy, almost any country in the Middle to Dark Ages. It was all bad for the Jews. Then come a country like Spain, that the Jews are not only thriving there, they are part of the actual royalty. There were dons. There were dons that were Jewish dons. A don is like a baron or something like that. It's a royal name, a person who owns land, a person who is considered to be high and mighty from the commoner. He's not a commoner anymore. He's a don. And that don, we know of, the highest don that we know of was Don Yitzchak Abarbanel. So we have Don Yitzchak Abarbanel. The last name Abarbanel referred to an ancient Jewish royal family, contributed, or actually related to the family of King David, that actually left Israel during the time of the first temple destruction, and they settled in Spain. And we know that this family was extremely wealthy and extremely high in the royalty structure in Spain, so much high that the family itself were treasury ministers to the King of Portugal, and the people, and he himself, Don Yitzchak Abarbanel, was also the treasury minister of Castile and Aragon, which is the same kingdom of Ferdinand II and Isabella I, who then later on expelled the Jews. He was their secretary of Finance for 8 years. So just to kind of understand what it meant to be the Secretary of Finance in those times. Basically, you were in charge on collecting tax. You're collecting tax, you're making a decree with the king, you say, I will collect, I don't know, 1,000,000 ducats worth of gold. And you have this so-and-so time to collect it. If you collected enough, whatever you collected extra, you get to keep. And if you are short, you have to pay it from your own pocket. So you had to take great responsibility with the king to say, I will collect you that money. And the story goes that he did collect. We know that he collected, and he was 8 years the Minister of Treasury, or the Minister of Finance, the way that you see it. And he says like this: when I was there in the courtyard of the king, I pleaded to the king 3 times to tell him, why shall you do this to your servants? And like that mute snake, he closed his ears and he didn't tell me anything. And the queen was standing next to him to be like a devil against the Jews. This is the background for what happened to the Jews. Jews end up being exiled. They moved from Spain to Portugal, and then the Catholic kings who initiated the decree with the church decided they don't like the idea of Jews living in Portugal, and then they end up being expelled also from Portugal, where the Portuguese king basically tricked the Jews and told them, I will give you boats, I will give you ships, I will give you everything you need if you come over here. And then they came over there, they just basically crossed the border to Portugal, and then he sold them out. And they had to live. And like I said, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Jews died during that decree. And it was horrific. I mean, think about it. If you are living in 1492 in disgusting Europe, right? Disease-infected, Catholic, priest-ruled Europe, right? Just the horribleness of you being a Jew and you have to leave your city, and you gotta take your wife and you gotta take your kids and you gotta go on a carriage, and then from a carriage you gotta go on a boat and you gotta cross the Mediterranean, because you can't go to France because France also expelled the Jews. You can't go to England because the British also expelled the Jews. So where would you go? You go to Germany, you go to Austria, you go to Poland. And really a lot of Jews went to Poland, went to Hungary, to Italy, North Africa, Egypt, and if you really want to put a time to it, that's when the Zionism really starts, when a lot of Jews, but I mean a lot of Jews, important, significant rabbis decide that Europe or North Africa is not the place for them, and they basically migrate to Israel. To a city called Tzfat, and that's where the entire movement of codex in the Jewish law and Kabbalistic ideas, everything come together around this time because of the expulsion of Jews from Spain. So all these rabbis had to go somewhere. They went to specific places when there was already established Jewish settlements, and it was good for Jewish. It was good for Judaism, not good for the Jews, because a lot of Spain was, like I said, was the highest, I don't know, the most advanced Jewish place in the world back then. And all these great rabbis left Spain, moved and migrated all over the Mediterranean, bringing that influence into those Jewish communities and really reviving those Jewish communities and creating Judaism as we know today. And so there was a decree actually from Jewish Spanish rabbis never to come back to Spain. As we know today, the Spanish government have opened their doors and offered Jews to come back to Spain and get a Spanish citizenship, and a bunch of idiot, sellout, disgusting Jews that have no right to do so, but agree to do that, and basically said, bygones be bygones, and we were willing to sell ourselves and sell all our ancestors who died during the Spanish exile. We will sell them out to get disgusting European Spanish passport, and those are those dirtbag Jews that are willing to do that. So we really need to understand that there was a decree. There was a decree to say that a person is not allowed to live in Spain. And it's interesting that there is a big Jewish family name called Toledano. And what does it mean, Toledano? Toledano originated from the city of Toledo in Spain. The family members of that last name, Toledano, it's actually the decree itself, because they say we will never go back to Spain. So Toledo, no, never going back to Toledo. That's why the last name is Toledano. Toledo, no. It's a combination of two words, a play on words. But you know, Jews are Jews, and in 1830 something, the Spaniards removed the decree of Alhambra, that basically meant the Jews are now able to go back to Spain and settle there. And a lot of the Jews did that. You know, what can we do? People do whatever they want to do, even if it means selling out their values. But thank God that we have our Torah, because what is the Torah says? Right? What is the Torah says? It says like this: Genesis 12:3, and I will bless the ones who bless you, and I will curse the ones who curse you, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed by you. So until the Jews left Spain, Spain was a thriving country. Once the Jews left Spain, Spain became a dark age, disgusting Catholic country controlled by almost like a Khomeini Iran of our days type country. And the only thing you can think about is the Inquisition, the horrible sights of people getting their eyes taken out of them and stretched on torture bed, and people getting boiled alive, and the most horrible depiction of people getting tortured extremely to death in the most sadistic manner. And that's really what happened to the Spaniards after the Jews left. And we're talking about an establishment that existed all the way until today. So they closed it in 1834, and I think 1836 is when Jews were allowed to come back to Spain. So 2 years after the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition was disassembled, quote unquote. But these horrible people, horrible people, did that to the Jews. And like God said, whoever is blessed you will be blessed. Whoever curse you will be cursed. And how did the Spanish people was cursed? So we know that after the Jews left came the Spanish Inquisition. So a lot of people don't know, but the Spanish Inquisition wasn't against Jews. It was against Christians who wasn't Christian enough or was suspected to be Jews in hindsight, that not in hindsight, in hiding, that still practicing Judaism, but on the outside was practicing Catholicism. So basically those Jews who said, well, you know what, I have my 401k, I got my lands, I got my wives, I got my kids, I got my money here, let me just convert to Catholicism and I'll stay in Spain. Those Jews suffered the most under the Spanish Inquisition and were tortured horrifically. So when a person has the idea of what an Inquisition is, I mean, you just know it. I'll put some pictures around just to see whatever is available online, just to see some of the stuff that they did, and they were disgusting people. We know that the Inquisition also went all the way to South America with the Spanish Church that came over here after the discovery of the New World, and really that's it. That's what you think about Spain. So unlike England, that when England came to the New World and some of the other nations that came to the New World made a lot of money, Spain made money, but really Spain didn't keep a lot of it. You know, we know that Spain had all kind of revolutions, and Spain is a horrible place, and was a horrible place, and it's still a horrible place. And we know that even Spain today is not such a great place, as they were on a break of a civil war a couple years ago. Maybe I think maybe a little bit before that, maybe recently. But Spanish Empire, what's their future? What's the future of Spain? So we know that a little bit after the Spanish Inquisition was abolished, they decided to bring the Jews back to Spain. I think some Jews went. I think there was a little bit of repercussions for Jews coming back to Spain. I think it wasn't that easy, and we know that now they want Jews to come back to Spain and resettle it or whatever it is. But we know really they just want Jewish money, because Jews, wherever they go, they bring their blessings with them. And it's interesting that as soon as Spain removed the decree, a few years later, we know Spain had the Spanish flu. From the Spanish flu, they had the Civil War. I think that's one of the reasons why Spain wasn't part of World War II. And then after that, we know that they were under a dictatorship, under a disgusting dictatorship of General Franco. So until today, basically, from the time Jews left Spain until today, we see that Spain is a horrible place. We know that today there was some, in modern time, there was some terror attacks in Spain, right? Killed tons of people during the attacks on the railroad system. We know the Basques were fighting the Spaniards. They're still fighting them today. I don't know if they're fighting them weapon war, kinetic war, or some kind of other wars, but we know they're still fighting with them. But yeah, that's it. So we see that for 600 years, the only European country wasn't able to release itself from the curse of God is Spain. And we will talk more about other countries and how they still are suffering under those curses because of what they did to the Jews. But Spain is an interesting case, because at least in the other countries, Jews was never good. Then they never had any good status to them as Jews. When we talk about Germany, we'll talk about the difference between German Jews and Spanish Jews. But Jews was good in Spain as Jews, and that was a very big revelation to Jews, that they can be a good Jew in a Christian, Catholic / Muslim country. But yeah, ever since then, 528 years ago, Spain have been a catastrophe. And all the gold and all the slaves that they brought from South America didn't help them. And Spain was horrible. Spain lost to England in the great wars, great maritime wars. And we know that Spain lost its entire armada to England. I think 1 or 2 times. And yeah, and that's what happened when you go against the Jews. Because you don't mess with God. I will bless the one who bless you, and I will curse the one who curses you. And all the families of the earth shall be blessed by you. And now we have this coronavirus. 12,000 deaths, maybe even more by the time this thing goes on air. And they deserve it. Horrible nation, did horrific things to the world. Expulsion of Jews, Inquisition for half a millennia almost, dictatorship, fascistic dictatorship, and now this, Corona. That's what happened when you mess with the Jews. So repent, the people of Spain, if you hear it now. And we don't need your passports, and we don't need the European passport, and we don't need anything from you. We need you to repent and go back to God and apologize for what you did to the Jews in 1492. It's been 528 years. We want an apology, reparations, and we don't need anything from you. And say sorry to God for what you did to his people. Because it's been 528 years. And Spain is still a hole in the ground that nobody can fill. It's a disgusting country on the face of bankruptcy, with 13,000 people that are dead from a virus that came all the way from China to Spain to avenge what they did to the Jews in 1492. Anyway, this was the UnapoloJews talking to you about the Spanish coronavirus with a little bit of history of what they did to the Jews and how we see it in the hand of God. That God's hand is on Spain for the last 528 years and not letting go until they repent and come back to God. So if they listen to this, if you're Spanish and you listen to this, come back to God, say you're sorry, kiss the hand of every Jew that you see, and say that you apologize in the name of your ancestors on the horrific Holocaust that you led the Jews 528 years ago. Anyway, thank you for listening. You can comment below, subscribe to the channel. This was Rabbi Orel David in the UnapoloJews podcast. Thank you.